Welcome to episode 26 of Inside Politics, for teens by teens, where I explore the politics and issues impacting our generation. I'm your host, Christina Li, and today I'm focusing on the intersection of human rights and policy. For this, I've invited Nida Ahmed, a current graduate student at the University of Southern California, who focuses on social innovation and public-private partnerships. Nida, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's jump right in. So how does public policy govern human rights?
So I think it's kind of a back and forth, but essentially public policy kind of has the regulatory framework that ideally supports human rights, and it's kind of provides the legal and legislative background to kind of uphold human rights. And, each country, nation has their own. So I think they go really hand in hand.
Understood. So how does human rights activism intersect with politics?
So I think this is a really interesting conversation because we see a lot more now where public voice and public opinion is so important, and it really actively affects policy and legislation and that whole process. So I think because politics are a little bit more accessible now than they used to be, 5, 10, 15 years ago. We see a lot of folks who started off as grassroots organizers actually running for office and holding public office. So I think because politics are so much more accessible now than they used to be, human rights and grassroots organizing really goes hand in hand.
Definitely. So how would you define politics from the perspective of somebody working with human rights?
So politics for me is just essentially, folks coming together to make decisions on how, a nation or a society should govern. So really, human rights and especially now as we see the social sector expanding a lot more and people becoming more conscious, especially the new generation, right? It's a generation that really has seen a lot of the effects of bad policies and bad politics kind of affect their lives really clearly. So now politics is very personal, whereas before it kind of seemed almost like this something that's far away, something that's separated and dissociated from the everyday person. But now politics and human rights are very much interconnected, and it's something that affects everyone's day-to-day life, and so it's hard to ignore now.
Yeah, definitely. So I understand that you focus on public-private partnerships. So how do these partnerships, join the fight for human rights?
Yeah, so I used to be a management consultant for the public sector. And so that's kind of a more traditional public-private partnership where private sector organizations come in to solve a specific public sector problem. And I think that's an important component of public-private partnerships, but we see it's kind of evolving and changing more now with, tech companies coming in and kind of acting as this like this will for good. And so I think it's really important that politics and kind of this human rights aspect is on the forefront of that, right? Because we see a lot of challenges and issues that come about when things like technology expand and kind of become more pervasive without the regulatory framework to kind of support it and to regulate it really. And so I think the fight for human rights is kind of really interconnected with how everything is moving. The public cares more. Employees want to feel like their company is doing good. So now there's social pressure, and it's kind of bringing together all these different sectors, the private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector. It's bringing them all together. So we see a lot of companies who work and partner with nonprofits. So when I was at the Walt Disney Company, we have this social impact fund, and we work really closely with nonprofits and we provide grants for them. And so you see that it's coming together very closely, and these sectors are working together a lot. And now it's the challenge of how do we make sure that we're guiding this in the right direction, and we're kind of mitigating all the risks that could potentially come with this.
Understood. So how can Gen Z join the fight for human rights alongside these partnerships?
Yeah, well, Gen Z is kind of at the forefront of it. I mean, it's again, it's kind of the unconventional ways of interacting with human rights and activism and politics that's really important. I think there's the traditional roots to politics, and that's legislation and bills and running for office, and that's great, and that has its own space for sure. But I think especially because Gen Z in these next few generations, they're seeing all of these bad policies, and the good policies as well, but mostly the bad policies. We're seeing the effects of it, and you guys are affected by it, especially now. Climate change, the environment, the economy, all these things, it's kind of at the front of line for you guys. So I think it's just being involved in whatever space you're in, right? So even if you're in medicine or the healthcare sector, it seems like it's apolitical, but really healthcare and medicine is very politicized. So it's going into those spaces, to this kind of unconventional or apolitical spaces, and really bringing that activism with you, right? If you're in public policy, or if you're in engineering, especially tech, right? We need more people who have that sociological kind of mindset to think, okay, well, what are the ramifications for society going to be? Who's going to be affected by something that seems some sort of technology? And so I think that's really where Gen Z and kind of the future generations, and my generation, that's where we're trying to come in and find unconventional ways of leveraging our specific backgrounds and our expertise and experience, and whatever is unique to you, and bringing that into whatever space you're in, and making sure you really push whatever company you're at or whatever organization you're at, and push them to fight for the morals that you feel strongly about. Because at the end of the day, they have to care. We see Nike, Adidas, all these big companies, they have huge social responsibility departments, and that's because of the public, the general public, people, kids, younger generations really saying, no, this is not something we're okay with. You guys need to make a change. So I think that's really where future generations can make the most impact.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Nida, for joining me here today. I really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see everybody next time on Inside Politics.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on.
Hi, everyone. This is Christina. Thank you so much for watching Inside Politics, and please feel free to check out the rest of the interviews on my channel. See you next time.